Era noaptea târziu,
It was very late at night.
stăteam pe o piatră afară.
I was sitting outside on a rock.
Lui Stan i-am arătat piatra că nu a fost la mine.
As Stan said, I showed him the rock when he came to my home.
Acolo stam și mă gândeam ce am făcut eu.
And I was just thinking, what did I do?
Plângeam să nu mă vadă
I
familia.
was crying so my family wouldn't see me.
Deodată am văzut că vine o lumină spre mine.
And all of a sudden, I saw a light coming towards me.
Când am văzut lumina, am crezut că e o mașină.
When I saw the light, I thought it was a car.
În Italia și în România m-au urmărit cu mașina să mă omoare.
Because in Romania and in Italy, they always try to run me over with cars.
Că au venit după mine și aici.
So I thought they found me here too.
Dar nu a fost mașină.
But it was not a car.
Că lumina m-a cucerit.
The light surrounded me.
Și din lumină am auzit aceeași voce.
And out of the light, I heard the same voice.
Era același înger.
It was the same angel.
Dumitru, de ce ești tu disperat?
Dimitri, why are you so despaired?
De ce m-ai pedepsit așa de tare?
Why'd you punish me so harshly?
Ce am făcut eu?
What did I do?
Ce nu m-a lăsat pe mine în pușcărie?
Why couldn't you let me stay in prison?
Familia avea unii să stea.
But my family would have had a home.
Zic, eu n-am unii îmi pleca cap.
I don't have a bed to let my head down
De
on.
ce m-ai adus aici?
Why was I brought here?
Dumitru, te-am adus aici că țara asta va arde.
Dimitri, I brought you to this country because this country will
Ce
burn.
m-ai adus să mă ard aici și nu m-ai lăsat să mor în pușcărie în țara mea?
So why'd you bring me here to burn? Why didn't you let me die in jail in my own country?
Dumitru, taci.
He said, Dimitri, be quiet.
Urcă-te lângă mine.
Get beside me.
Ce aparat a avut? Nu.
I don't know what the device was,
M-a tras lângă el.
but he pulled me beside him
Mi-a arătat toată California.
and he showed me all of
Vrei
California.
să-ți arăt?
Do you see what I've shown
E
you?
Sodoma și Gomorra.
This is that Sodom and Gomorrah.
Păcatul lor a ajuns înaintea lui Dumnezeu.
Their sins have reached God,
Și Dumnezeu a hotărât să-i pedepsească
and
pentru
God has decided to punish them by fire.
M-au dus și ne-au arătat Las
He
Vegas.
came and showed me Las Vegas.
Aici e Sodoma și Gomorra.
This is that Sodom and Gomorrah.
Într-o zi va arde.
And one day it will burn.
Mi-au arătat New York.
He came and showed me New York.
Aici e New York.
This is New York.
Aici e Sodoma și
This
Gomorra.
is that Sodom and Gomorrah.
Într-o zi va arde.
And one day it will burn.
M-au dus și ne-au arătat Florida.
And then he showed me Florida.
Aici e Florida.
This is Florida.
Aici e Sodoma și Gomorra.
This is that Sodom and Gomorrah.
Într-o zi va arde.
And then one day it will burn.
Da, cu mine ce ai să faci?
But what will you do with me, I said?
Been listening to the Wake Up America message with Dimitri Duduman. For a copy of this very important message, please go to our website at handofhelp.com. Never before in the history of our country has our nation been in more jeopardy than now. Please order a copy of the video Wake Up America at the handofhelp.com website and get the warning out while we still have time. This is the Light of Truth radio broadcast with Michael Boldea.
All right. Welcome to the program, and thank you for joining us. This is the Light of Truth radio broadcast. I am your host, Michael Boldea. And as of today, let's see, May. It's May already. May the 23rd, 2019. We are live. Thank you to all of you who wrote in about last week's program. It's fun. I like doing the back and forth. I like Jeff as a friend, as a brother, and we have a good rapport together. So I'm not gonna try to skirt the issue. Sometimes I do have what some might misconstrue as a juvenile sense of humor, but it's all with a purpose. And so even the humor that seemed a bit on the juvenile side had an undercurrent of truth in it. Because, look, I believe we have to be happy warriors. I believe that if we lose our abilities to smile and our abilities to laugh, and our abilities to have a little levity once in a while, then a hard road becomes all that much harder. So yes, I like laughter. I like smiling. My children make me smile. This is why I spend so much time with them, especially the little one now that she's learning words and she can point to things she wants and make cute faces. Well, here we are. The nation is the clown show that we've known it to be for the past 2 years. And when you look at, the United States Congress and the Senate, it would be funny. It would actually make you laugh until you remember that these clowns are in charge of government. These clowns are the people that were duly elected to offices of power, to make laws, write laws, pass laws, and do the people's business. Now, thankfully, the Democrats haven't gotten a chance to do any of the people's business for the last 2 years because their singular purpose was to destroy Donald Trump. And it would seem by all accounts that Donald Trump's nickname Teflon Don is well deserved because it's not for lack of trying, but they haven't landed a blow. And the Associated Press just came out with something that I'm going to read to you because, again, levity. It's funny. Look, we can talk about what's happening with Iran and the tensions there and Donald Trump threatening it to the point of assuring them that they would no longer be a nation the next time they threatened us. But it's Thursday, tomorrow's Friday, it's a long weekend, the beginning of summer, and what will be will be. Look, dark days are ahead, but we don't have to be morose until they get here. When the night comes, we'll deal with it. There will perhaps be less moments of levity and joviality and laughter during those days. So take advantage of the laughter today is my advice. Take advantage of joy today. Go enjoy a sunset. Enjoy a sunrise. Spend the weekend with your family. Grill some meat. That always makes me smile, the smell of grilled meat. And I know that I'm probably going to get a letter from some vegan or some vegetarian. God bless you anyway. So, the Associated Press has an article pretty much depicting what's been happening in Washington of late, which is Nancy, where am I, Pelosi, and Donald Trump, who is, by all accounts, the master troller, exchanging blows. Look, I think, as the kids like to say, Nancy's fighting outside her weight range here. Because if you're going to go fisticuffs with somebody, the last person you want to fisticuff with is Donald Trump. The man has a rapier wit and an ability to just press the right buttons when it comes to his opposition. What was it? The latest one with Mayor Pete Buttigieg or whatever his name is. It was beautiful. He called him the guy from Mad Magazine, Alfred P. Newman. I had to look it up because I remembered from my childhood seeing Mad magazines on sale at the Vons. And I had to remember the face. I remembered it to a certain degree, but when I looked it up, man, the guy hit it on the head. He looks like the guy from Mad Magazine. Now, if only Mayor Pete was as likable as Alfred Newman from Mad Magazine, that would be one thing. I discussed this in one of my blog posts last week, or was it this week? Understand that a baby-faced devil is still a devil. Look, if you listen to the words that Mayor Pete spews, there is such a deep-seated hatred for Christianity and Christians just boiling out of this man that he can't help himself. I don't know what he went through. I don't know who he went through it with. I know that his brother is a pastor in Michigan, and he's made it known that though he loves his brother, he cannot approve his lifestyle. But Mayor Pete Buttigieg, he is, self-assured in that he is worshiping his God, and his God does not mind his sexual orientation. But in the same breath, he condemns all of those that would dare say homosexuality is still a sin. So if Mayor Pete there becomes a player in the 2020 elections, God forbid he ever gain power is all I'm going to say. But back to the levity, because again, There's a lot of stuff that we can talk about that would make us very sad these upcoming days, but there is no reason for sadness. The sun is finally shining in Wisconsin, and it's above 65 degrees. This was a miracle unto itself. If anybody still believed in global warming, they should have come to Wisconsin these past few months. They would have gone to, who was it? Al Gore's house and just beat him with a sack of potatoes. Because there's no way that you can believe in anything close to global warming after we've endured what we've endured in Wisconsin for the past 2 months. It's been a brutal, long, drawn-out winter. Just cold and gloomy and snow in the middle of May. And you have Al Gore, who made almost $1 billion selling a network to Al Jazeera, droning on about how we were going to be underwater by, 2001. Well, sorry, Al. We're still here. I get sidetracked. I apologize. Back to the insults flying. Because they're hilarious. So, Washington, D.C. Remember, not only do these people draw a salary from you, the taxpayer, at least Nancy Pelosi and her ilk in Congress. Because now it's not being publicized. It's not being well reported because it goes against the narrative. But to date, Donald Trump has donated every single paycheck he's gotten as president to either infrastructure or veterans causes or something. So people who keep going on and on about, well, he was broke and he just needed to make some money, yeah, that narrative's falling apart. He's donating his pay. I don't see Nancy, I just had another aneurysm, Pelosi, doing the same, even though she's in the top 5, top 10 richest members of Congress, and somehow, by some miracle, every member of Congress that has been in there since George Washington took the boat across the river is so brilliant that they've become millionaires while doing the business of the people in Congress. Elijah Cummings, a man who cannot put a sentence together, is a multimillionaire. Nancy Pelosi, a woman who is so stressed that she hasn't smiled in 23 years, is a multi-millionaire in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Either a flock of genii all got elected to Congress in the same instant, or there is such corruption going on in Washington, D.C., that Nancy's depends are likely full 80% of the time, thinking that all their dark deeds are going to get uncovered. Why do you think they're fighting tooth and nail to destroy this president, this attorney general, and anybody who brings up investigating the other side for any reason whatsoever? How many of you, honestly, how many of you have heard about the case of Elijah Cummings' wife and her charity? Nobody, not being reported. Somebody made a lot of money. Somebody made a lot of money. Now, Elijah Cummings is married to a woman, 30 years his junior, because, love knows no wrinkles. And I'd be hard pressed to wager any amount of money that Elijah Cummings knows how to do math in his head. But somehow, he'd be a millionaire. Maxine Waters lives in a $4 million mansion far away from her constituency that is shooting up heroin when they're not shooting each other in the face. Need I go on? Jackson Lee. There are dozens and dozens of these people that have no demonstrable skill whatsoever. People who write the word breathe on their left hand just to remember to do so, that are millionaires. And they became such during their time in public service. Because don't you know, we're here to do the business of the people. Schumer. Chuck Schumer. Another piece of human flotsam. Never had a job. Always in government. Millionaire. Crazy Uncle Bernie. A man who in any other country would be in an insane asylum raging at a padded cell about how socialism works for everybody. Is running for president, multimillionaire. Now, nobody seems to be bringing up the fact that crazy Uncle Bernie's wife was caught up in a multi-million-dollar scandal about a college that went bankrupt because something about $10 million being siphoned or set aside or somehow squirreled away by Commie Bernie's beloved. Don't you know they honeymooned in Russia? So these are the people. These are the clowns that are in charge of government. All rich beyond their wildest dreams, not because of merit, not because of aptitude, not because they invented something or created something or started a business, but because they convinced enough less than intelligent people to vote them into office. Then they sucked at the government teat until it bled. And all of these clowns now have their knives out because they want to see Donald Trump's finances. A man who lost $1 billion made it back, and by all accounts is doing pretty well financially. It's astounding to me that the general populace in this country doesn't stand up and march on Congress. Do we need to talk about Jerry Nadler? Do we need to talk about this Amash character who's become the favorite of the Democrat Party because he's a supposed Republican that said Donald Trump needs to be impeached even though there is no demonstrable crime, there is no evidence of a crime, there is no evidence of obstruction or anything else. But what nobody seems to be pointing out, because, why do your due diligence, is that Mr. Amish has businesses in China that are suffering because of the tariffs. But no, there's no vested interest here. He's a patriot, don't you know? So this crazy stew that's been going on, Nancy Pelosi and Chuckles Schumer was supposed to go meet the president about infrastructure. And, of course, minutes before they were supposed to go into the meeting, Nancy, I forgot my schizophrenia medicine at home, Pelosi, started talking about, the president obstructing justice and being a criminal. And rightly so, Donald Trump said, if we're not going to talk about infrastructure, I'm kind of going to leave. And that's what he did. So, Nancy Pelosi's not coming out well in this, and neither is Chuck Schumer, because they said one thing, all of the witnesses are saying something else. But this is the latest, and it's hilarious, the back and forth. The Associated Press, a fine newspaper of record, says this. She's calling for an intervention to save the nation from him. He says she's crazy. This sounds like the lead into one of those Jerry Springer shows from decades ago, doesn't it? She says it's his baby. He says, no, it isn't. The enmity between President Donald Trump and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi deteriorated Thursday into rude and then some questioning of his fitness for office and her sanity. With personal attacks flowing from both the nation's top elected officials after a dramatic blow-up at the White House. However intended, the exchanges left uncertain ahead of the 2020 election whether Trump and the Democrats will be able to work together on serious must-pass tasks such as funding government and raising the federal borrowing limit. Yes, because those really are must-pass tasks. Remember, the government was shut down for 30 days. No one felt it. No one blinked an eye. I'm sorry if you tried to go to a national park and it was closed. Boo-hoo. Nobody felt it. Nobody was scratching at themselves or pulling their hair out going, oh, my government is closed. So the thing that they deem must-pass tasks, I really don't care about, such as raising the federal borrowing limit. Pray tell, for what? Let alone thornier issues, such as immigration, national security, and more. Pelosi went first with demure shrugs and practiced sass. Yeah. It's called losing one's mind. It's the mini aneurysms going off. The woman hasn't completed a sentence since 2012. Then, as a tornado warning blared across Washington, Trump followed with a derisive nickname, something he had declined to give her up to now. Of course he did. Like I said, when you go up against the master troller, you're going to get hurt. There's going to be some bruising. Put some ice on that, as Bill Clinton once said. She's a mess, Trump told reporters at an afternoon news conference in which he lined up White House staff to testify to his calmness the day before when he walked out after 3 minutes at a meeting with Pelosi and Senate Democratic leader Charlie Schumer. Crazy Nancy. I watched Nancy and she was all crazy yesterday. And if you watched Nancy, you know that he was right. As for himself, he declared, I'm an extremely stable genius. And again, the guy, he knows how to troll these people. Pelosi scolded back. When the extremely stable genius starts acting more presidential, I'll be happy to work with him on infrastructure, trade, and other issues. She tweeted. Okay. The Democrats at this point would rather walk across a football field of broken glass and drink a gallon of razor blades than work with Donald Trump. Understand that the man has succeeded in doing much of what he promised he would do in spite of the resistance from both his own party, the Democrat Party, and the media. If Nancy Pelosi and Charlie Schumer had any intention of working with this president, they might actually accomplish a lot in very little time, but they have no intention of doing it. And you have disingenuous people. Yeah, I'll call them that, because another word that comes to mind is not very Christian. Like Mitt Romney, who almost begged for the president's endorsement when he was running for the Senate in Utah, and now stabs him in the back repeatedly as though he were some piñata. Look, don't you dare tell me about your Christianity and your Christian principles and the fact that you stand on your principles when you're willing to betray someone whose help you asked for? Either maybe Mormons have redefined what Christian means, but I'm sorry, Mitt Romney is looking like a human turd right now. Apparently, the ghost of John McCain has taken up residence inside him because every single chance he gets, he stabs. So, let's continue with this because it's beautiful. It just goes back and forth. These are elected officials, mind you. There was more before and after the exchange for political enthusiasts with the time and interest to follow along. For those who don't, the theater came a day after Trump stalked out of the cabinet room. See, again, there's the Associated Press lending narrative to the plot because Trump didn't stalk out, he walked out. Anywho, the theater came a day after Trump stalked out of the cabinet room demanding an end to all the congressional investigations before he would work with Congress on repairing U.S. infrastructure or other matters. Now, if you'd been under investigation for 2 years, if you'd been cleared by a special counsel, the Senate Judiciary, and the House Judiciary investigation, wouldn't you get a little testy if they continued with the same nonsense? He apparently was wound up generally over the ongoing congressional Trump-Russia probes into whether he obstructed justice, and specifically by Pelosi's jab a few minutes earlier at the Capitol that he is engaged in a cover-up. Now, I understand Nancy's IQ may be lacking. I'm not saying she's not a street-smart woman. Nancy is a political animal of the most elite kind. Intelligence-wise, questionable. But in order for there have been a cover-up, there needed to have first been a crime. It was determined that no crime took place. This is why they said there was no collusion, because collusion with the Russians may have been construed as a crime. Mueller, a man who hates Trump as much as Wasserman, the other lawyer that penned the 400-page thing, and all the others that, surprisingly, all donors to the Hillary Clinton adult diaper campaign. Every single one of the people that was investigating Trump was a Clinton donor, and they still couldn't find anything on him. And yet here comes Nancy, a made of plastic Pelosi, and she starts spouting off of just inanities in her half sentences, you know, when her synaptic nerves finally kick in and there's some sort of just reactive shock there. Cover up. Cover up. Cover up of what, you foolish woman? In order for someone to cover up a crime, there needs to be a crime to cover up. There was no crime. I'm so sorry. All your dreams, they die. They wither on the vine and they die. All the fantasy about impeach Orange Man because he colludes with the Russians, all dead. I'm so sorry. But they have to keep the narrative alive because they've got nothing. Who are they going to run? Well, come on, honestly. They have to make Trump out to be the villain in the hope of convincing enough stupid people that he is. If they have a prayer at even coming close to get clobbered by Trump in 2020. Because right now the die is pretty much cast. There is absolutely no Democrat frontrunner who has a shot at beating Donald Trump. Look, you have to realize that out of the 24, one will come out the victor. Whoever that one is, he will have been tenderized by the other 23. Because they're not just going to shut up and take it. All of them are vying for this position. So basically, they want to be the one that goes into the meat grinder. Because when Donald Trump gets started with them, every single one of these people has enough baggage where it's not even going to be close. Because Donald Trump has no political correctness in him. And so when somebody like Pete Buttigieg stands up there, or Kamala Harris, or Joe Biden, they're going to get annihilated. Kamala Harris was sleeping with a man who could have been her grandfather to start her political career. Joe Biden likes to sniff little girls' hair. Pete Buttigieg is a lunatic. Who else is there? What, the mayor of New York? And so the only thing they have is to try to tear down Trump the man. Because his policies are succeeding, things are going okay for the country. And so they're fishing. This is a fishing expedition. They want his finances, they want everything. And when they find nothing, they're just going to get more desperate. So, right before they were supposed to go talk about infrastructure, Nancy's aneurysm kicked in and she goes, Trump's engaging in a cover-up. And then she called her plastic surgeon because he needed to stretch her face again. Donald Trump answered, I don't do cover-ups. Hanging over the increasingly personal exchanges is a drumbeat among about 24 Democrats and 1 Republican to launch impeachment hearings against Trump based on special counsel Robert Mueller's report, which found nothing. Look, Trump could have fired Mueller at any moment, and he didn't. They tried to get him to fire Mueller, and he didn't. I hope that Mueller, I honestly, I think they're so blinded with rage that they're going to make this mistake, and when they do make this mistake, it's going to be the one mistake that's going to haunt them for the next decade. If Congress calls Mueller to testify, it'll be the biggest misstep they've ever made. Because it's not only the Democrats that are going to get to ask Mueller questions, it's Republicans too. And the first and only questions they need to ask Mueller is, when did you know that there was no collusion and no obstruction? A date, please. And then, I guarantee you, it was within a couple months, not 2 years hence. The next question has been, why did you wait so long? You need to hammer at these people. You need to tear down the swamp brick by brick, because it's the only thing that they understand. The only thing they understand is taking their power away, is risking that which they have amassed from the public dole. So I hope they call Mueller to testify. I really do. I think the reason that they're getting so apoplectic, that's a word for you, Jeff, apoplectic, is because the new Attorney General has a curious mind. And he's very interested in discovering how this whole mess started, and if it started legally. Now, if they do go ahead with impeachment proceedings, they have to prove that there was high crimes and misdemeanors, which there weren't. No matter how much they try to spin it, there was no obstruction of justice. Justice was done. Mueller delivered his report. The Attorney General provided it for the Congress. But see, they have to keep the narrative going because they've got nothing else. So, on Thursday it says, subtlety went by the wayside. Pelosi said Trump had established a pattern of unpredictability. And at one point she even joked about the 25th Amendment, the Constitution's provision laying out the procedure for replacing a president. This president has been consistent. And I do believe that Nancy, with her claw-like fingers, is grasping at straws. And then, of course, Nancy went religious because, remember my favorite book? The book. The book. Lord Almighty. How these people aren't afraid to speak the name of God for just spontaneously combusting. You have to have just a dead heart inside. You have to have made your peace with the fact that you're going to be giving the devil pedicures with your tongue for eternity. Not to just shudder a little bit when you just lie openly. When you talk about praying in one breath and champion infanticide in the next. So Nancy Pelosi said she was praying for the president. And I heard somebody on the radio said the only prayer that Nancy is saying for the president is that the president gets hit by a bus. That's the only thing Nancy's praying for Donald Trump for. And then Trump tweeted back, again, master troll, Nancy, thank you so much for your prayers. I know you truly mean it. Beautiful. So this is where we are as a nation. This isn't going to stop for the next 2 years. I think that all things considered, the Democrats are going to get their teeth knocked into the back of their throats come 2020. I think we regain the House. I think we add seats in the Senate. And I think that Trump will not only win the Electoral College, but this time around he will win the popular vote. That's just my take on it, looking at the situation as a whole. There's no other way to look at it. So they're going to rage, and it's going to get more and more cringeworthy. And I'm sure Nancy will say more and more prayers because she is such a religious woman after all. But another thing that I wanted to talk about, which isn't as laughter-inducing, is that Il Papi himself, the Pope, or Pope Francis, as some call him, has come out with a new directive. It's a doozy, so brace yourselves. He is not one to mince words or, make you think that he's actually a Christian. So Pope Francis says the following: the church must learn to abandon old traditions. Translation: stop pointing to the Bible about things. I'm going to read the article a little bit because you need to understand just how vile this Pope is. You thought the German guy was bad. I think that in hindsight, the German guy discovered some truly wicked things in the Catholic Church and he couldn't stomach them, so he walked away. I think the fact that this Pope is trying to cover up for pedophiles on every continent, and not just run-of-the-mill Catholic parishioners, but pedophile priests, shows you his true heart. Let's just put it that way. But yes, the Pope insists and would advise that the Church must learn to abandon old traditions. What, like having a Pope? Like kissing the ring of the guy wearing the funny hat and riding in a Pope-mobile? Are those the old traditions to which you refer, sir? Huh? No, of course not. No. The church, it must survive. The Pope, he is the mouthpiece of God, don't you know? So give the Pope your money, but keep your children away from his priests, apparently. So, it is a mistake for the Church to try to hold on to old traditions or to have clear answers for everything, Pope Francis said Thursday. Well, mi scusi, il papi, but the Bible does have clear answers on pretty much everything. They may not be the answers that you like. They may not be the answers that you want to hear particularly, but the Bible does have answers. Jesus, and again, this is another lie, intentionally omitted telling his disciples many things so that the Church would learn to renounce the desire for clarity and order. Okay, so I know that if you just read it, or if you listen to me read it, you may skip over the important thing. But basically, what Il Papi is saying is that you should have no desire for clarity or order. This coming from the head of the Catholic Church. Okie dokie. Let's continue. It's a long article, and I've run out of time talking about Nancy Pelosi. The Pope told participants in the 21st General Assembly of Caritas Internationalis, because apparently if you roll your R, you're intelligent nowadays. Remember? Or if you say Pakistan, Pakistan, as Barack Hussein Obama used to say. So anyway, yes, this is what the Pope told the participants in the 21st General Assembly of Caritas Internationalis, the Church's global charitable outreach. When pagans first embraced the Christian faith, the question arose as to if they would have to abide by all the precepts of the Jewish law, something Jesus never spoke of, the Pope noted. He didn't. But Jesus didn't speak of popes either. So again, mi scusi. By not always giving clear rules that would quickly resolve issues, Jesus was protecting the Church from the temptation of efficientism. There's a word that he invented. Basically, the temptation of being efficient. Yep. All right. Which is the desire for the Church to have everything under control, avoiding surprises, with its agenda always in order. Given the fact that every state is now investigating pedophilic priests and pedophile priest rings, just in the United States, never mind on other continents as well, I would say that the Church hasn't had everything under control, and it hasn't avoided surprises for a very long time. But that's just me. This is not the way the Lord acts, he continued. He does not send answers from heaven. He sends the Holy Spirit. Well, let's not oversimplify it, Il Papi, because, the Holy Spirit dwells within a heart that is pure and clean, because you cannot put new wine in an old wineskin. And I know that I may be walking out on a limb here, but I would surmise and submit that if your priests are raping children, perhaps they are not or have not availed themselves of a new wineskin. This man is so convoluted. Jesus does not want the church to be a perfect model. Oh, no. Why talk of holiness? I can't. I should, because you need to understand the danger that this man poses. But I had cabbage rolls for lunch, and I don't want him coming back, because stop. He, again, in a roundabout way, he's still defending the indefensible. I haven't heard of any priests being handed over to the authorities. I haven't heard of any priests being defrocked. Instead, he's talking about Jesus not wanting the church to be a perfect model. Jesus did not live like this, the Pope says, but on a journey without fearing the upheavals of life. Jesus was the Son of God. Jesus was perfect. Jesus was sinless. Let's not compare ourselves to Jesus, Il Papi. How these people can have God on their lips without living in terror of spontaneously combusting is beyond me. Whew. All right, we're going to just barrel through this. We've got another, 10 minutes. So, Jesus does not want the church to be a perfect model. Living like Jesus demands the courage of renunciation, the pontiff said. A willingness to abandon traditions that are dear to us, like not raping children. I think that's a tradition that should be kept. Don't you, Il Papi? Changing and adapting is not about imposing something new, but leaving aside something old, he said. Like the notion that sin is sin. I added that, not him. So just so you understand the context. But this is what he's getting at. Do you understand that this man's entire thrust since he got elevated to Pope, his entire thrust was to pick apart the foundation of truth and do away with what he calls old tradition in lieu of what? Tolerance, acceptance, validation. I haven't read this whole thing, but if he doesn't bring up homosexuality, transgenderism, and abortion at some point and saying that's the old way of thinking, I'd be surprised. So yes, leave aside the old things. Like, life being sacrosanct. Like priests being, spiritual advisors and not the people that rape your kids. Little things like that. Just leave those old things aside. those early Christians had to learn to leave behind important religious traditions and precepts dear to the chosen people, he said, by which their very religious identity was at stake. And here it comes. I knew it would. In the end, they did not need a bunch of doctrines and traditions, but simple announcement that God is love. Well, why do you still have the job, Il Papi? Why not tear down the walls of the Vatican, give away all the gold and treasures that you've plundered throughout the centuries? We don't need a bunch of doctrines and traditions. Just simply announce, God is love. I'll make you a hat and a shirt. I'll ship it first class. One will say God is love across the chest, the other across the hat brim. It'll be beautiful. That's all you need, is it not? Repentance, holiness, no. What speak thouest of? We know not of these things. God is love. It is the only necessary thing that we must have, is that the God is love. Francis said, and in the face of this great truth, even convictions and human traditions can and must be abandoned, since they are more of an obstacle than a help. Okie dokie, little pokey. So, in case you didn't understand what Il Papi was trying to get at, stop being a prude. Stop going to the Bible every time you have a question. Even your convictions, even your convictions can and must be abandoned. So the next time you hear someone scrutinizing a priest for doing unthinkable things to a child, your human instinct and tradition and conviction might be to go choke the life out of him, or at least turn him into the police. But you must abandon your conviction and your tradition and simply say, God is love. I don't know if you can impeach a pope, but if you could impeach a pope, honest Catholics should at least try, because this man is an embarrassment. It is absolutely stunning what this man is purporting. And he does so from a place of spiritual authority. And look, there are critics of this Pope within the Catholic Church. It says, critics of the Pope have often complained that he intentionally sows ambiguity, and the Pontiff's words Thursday would seem to suggest that he owns this criticism as a badge of honor because he sees a desire for doctrinal clarity as anti-evangelical. Let that sink in. So, doctrinal clarity is now anti-evangelical. It's like what the New York Post or the New York Times saying that abortion saves lives. It's the same lunacy. It's absolutely stunning. This is the Pope. This is the man responsible for the spiritual well-being of what, 1 billion people? This is a man who didn't have the stomach to clean up his own house, who's allowing pedophile priests to continue to do unspeakable things to children. And you're telling me that a desire for doctrinal clarity is anti-evangelical? What, like homosexuality is sin? Like abortion is murder? Like pedophiles go to hell? That sort of doctrinal clarity, Poppy? Unreal. So this is where we are. If I didn't wake up every morning and pinch myself, I'd think I was in the Twilight Zone. I'm starting to give more and more credence to these people that are saying we're living in the Matrix. Because just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, people couldn't become more reprobate, here comes the Pope to prove you wrong. It's absolutely stunning. So, there is nowhere to go but forward. There is no choice to make but to fight. Anything less is betrayal. And we need to come to terms with the very real idea that when Jesus spoke of one's own brothers and sisters persecuting them, he wasn't being hyperbolic. So, as always, thank you for joining us. I know we started off happy, and then somewhere along the way we took a detour. But here we are. So, Lord willing, we'll be back live next week. Until then, I would ask that you keep us in your prayers. And if Gino has anything to say, now would be his time. God bless you, and thank you for joining us.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Well, I would urge everyone to pray hard for President Trump, because I just feel in my heart that the onslaught of attack against him really warrants our prayers. And, I don't know if, it's got to be tremendously hard for him to keep having to deal with investigation after investigation and onslaught after onslaught of attack. And, I really think it'd be wise to start impeaching the kooks that are in the hen house, the Pelosi's and the Schumers and just so many liberal, crazy people. Governor Northam in Virginia that was okay with dismembering a baby that would be born, and then the mother would decide it's okay to abort that child, and crazy Cuomo's in New York, and people that, when you think about it, we all decry Hitler, how terrible he was. How different are these folks than someone like that? Their heart is as black and dark as Hitler. And to be so evil, not only to attack the president constantly, but to demand that our country pay for Planned Parenthood and other murder machines to be funded by taxpayers, to try to shove down our throat gay marriage, and to shove down people's throat dismemberment bills, which thankfully and prayerfully the one in Michigan, where the crazy governor there is okay with dismemberment after birth. Hopefully the 400,000 people in Michigan, the vote needed to overturn this governor's veto of the bill will come to fruition, because you got to rise up to a greater level of standing for what you stand for than these people that stand for absolute gross evil.
So thank you for listening tonight. God bless you. Have a great night in the Lord.
Thank you for listening to today's broadcast, The Light of Truth with Michael Boldea. If you would like to order a copy of today's broadcast, please visit our website at handofhelp.com. If you have questions about our ministry, you can email us at handofhelpoffice@aol.com or simply call us at 920-206-9910. God bless you.